see the New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of election, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's live edition. It is May 3rd, 2013. Today is the Friday edition of Down the Rabbit Hole, and tonight I have a slew of things I'm going to be going over for you. Next week, I got a bunch of guests coming on. Next week, Tuesday, if all stays the way it is planned, I'll have Professor James Tracy on live from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. Professor Tracy is the gentleman who was, partially roasted over the coals by CNN's Anderson Cooper for his take on the Sandy Hook massacre. And I actually interviewed Professor Tracy off air, but the interview is so long I'm going to have to release it on YouTube because it's just it would take like 3 or 4 days of airing it, because there was so much. It would probably take me about 3 days to air the whole thing in its entirety. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to release that interview in its entirety on YouTube, but the interview on Tuesday will briefly cover some of the stuff that we went into. In a nutshell, I'm going to get his take on the Boston Marathon bombing and a few other things. I'm going to have him promote his class, which he teaches, called Culture of Conspiracy. Get an update on what's happened since they tried to go after him. And we have a bunch of other guests, too. I got the owner of MagicalButter.com, who I have interviewed before. His name's Garen. He's going to come back on, and I'll be bringing him back on for you guys to be introduced to who he is and his product, which they just started the company a few months ago, and it was actually started aimed at helping people. And I can get behind that, and that's why I met him back just when it was starting to get popular, I guess in the underground, and it's used for making medicinal butters and oils and things like that. Anyway, I know people whose lives have personally been changed by this machine, friends and listeners of mine. So you're going to be hearing from the owner of Magical Butter, and I'm bringing Charlotte Iserby back on, plus a bunch of other guests, Doug Rocky, Joyce Riley. So now that we're settled in here at Unbound, we're going to get back down to business and bring the A game the way it should. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back. I got a ton of things I want to go over tonight with you. Stay tuned. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Now, I'm sure some of the other alternative outlets out there have covered this. I myself have been slammed today doing a bazillion things, doing a few of them for Unbound itself, behind the scenes here and there, working on Federal Jack and stuff. So I didn't really have a chance to take a listen to any of the other broadcasts. Not that I do usually before I go on air anyway, because I don't like to get tainted by anybody else's stuff. I like to have it raw. So I don't know anybody else's take on what I'm about to get into, but I can guarantee you everybody's probably pissed off about it. That would be the current dictator-in-chief. I won't call him my president, but our current dictator-in-chief was in Mexico today. And, of course, the war on drugs, war of terror, right? War of drug running, war of drug runners, it should be called. Anyway, speaking at Mexico, it was at some museum, and he's talking about how it's America's fault. He blames us, says it's our guns that are coming over and killing Mexican people. Well, you're right, sir. Actually, you are right. I mean, to a certain extent. Operation Fast and Furious rings a bell. You and the Bush administration before you smuggled guns to drug cartels, and there was a lot more to it than just demonizing the Second Amendment, which actually I'm gonna get into in quite detailed for about 5-10 minutes on that. But I don't want to digress too much. Hold on. I want you all to hear what the dictator-in-chief had to say. Listen, this is down in Mexico.
Not just law enforcement, but education and prevention and treatment. That's what we have to do. And we're going to have to stay at it because the lives of our children and the future of our nations depend on it. And we also recognize that most of the guns used to commit violence here in Mexico come from the United States.
Which is a lie, not most of them, but some of them do. You're right. Operation Fast and Furious. Idiots clap for him. You hear them clap for him? Yay, you're right. Demonize the Second Amendment, even though you're the one and your predecessor before you smuggled guns in. But now Attorney General Eric Holder is trying to cover it up. Yay, yay, yay. Remember, it was the Justice Department that was supposed to go and look into the Justice Department, and they won't do it. Yeah, they won't go after Eric Holder, because that's their boss. You really think the Fox is going to investigate its own little den and report on its other little fox pups? Or have the fox pups report on Fox Mama or Fox Papa? No, I don't think so. Or as the old expression goes, it's like the fox investigating the hen house.
I think many of you know that in America our Constitution guarantees our individual right to bear arms. And as president, I swore an oath to uphold that right, and I always will. But at the same time, as I've said in the United States, I will continue to do everything in my power to pass common sense reforms that keep guns out of the hands of criminals and dangerous people that can save lives here in Mexico and back home in the United States. It's the right thing to do.
You're a traitor. You are a traitor. Traitor, 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 traitor. You took an oath to defend the Second Amendment. The gun legislation bills got knocked down, right? So now he goes to Mexico and says, I will do everything in my power. You know what that means? Executive order. That's right. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. An executive order. Because he's the anointed one, after all, right?
So we'll keep increasing the pressure on gun traffickers who bring illegal guns into Mexico. We'll keep putting these criminals where they belong, behind bars. And so we recognize we've got work to do on security issues, but we also recognize our responsibility as a nation that believes that all people are created equal. We believe it's our responsibility to make sure that we treat one another with dignity and respect. And this includes recognizing how the United States has been strengthened by the extraordinary contributions of immigrants from Mexico and by Americans of Mexican heritage.
See, it's just, ugh. propaganda, and I'm not bashing people that of Mexican heritage that came here and, you know, got citizenship and everything else. I'm not bashing that at all. Okay? I'm not making fun of any of those people. But this little meeting has nothing to do with being a good president and strengthening our resolve against the war on drugs and gun crime. It's about creating a North American Union, which entails taking away your Second Amendment rights. You have to understand something. In order to have a globalized government, which even the mainstream media, even though they attack you for having the belief, they've reported it on themselves. So, I mean, they know they're liars. They're just blatant propagandists, right, at this point. Which is, it's pretty ridiculous when you understand the truth. But in order to have a one-world government, you cannot have an armed citizenry. It just doesn't work. Because if the citizens are armed and you do something they don't like and you try to take away their rights or you start to try to round people up, well, you can defend yourself and fight back. They don't want that. World government can't have that. So they have to demonize the Second Amendment in any way, shape, or form they can. Now, Fast and Furious, I mentioned this, and I said I was going to get into really quick about the depth of it. I'm going to let you hear something that Ben Swan did when he was still over on Fox 19 before he left. This was probably at least 6-7 months ago. Okay? I'm going to bring this piece back up because the audio for you, I'm going to play it for you because it's really important. Listen. Let's listen again. Remember, the president just told you, he pretty much admitted that they've been running guns. He just didn't say they. He just said it was guns from America. He just didn't say it was his administration and the previous administration that were running the guns into Mexico. But hold on. Let's take a look at history, shall we?
Well, the ATF gun runner and Fast and Furious operations, which spanned both the Bush and the Obama administrations, are two of the most stunning government operations to have come unraveled in years. Tonight, new and stunning accusations about Fast and Furious and why one high-ranking drug cartel official says Americans have it all wrong. Ben has the reality check you won't see anywhere else.
We told you before that Justice Department memos obtained by CBS prove that the feds plan to use the numbers from Fast and Furious to push for stricter gun laws in the U.S. The attempt was to claim that the majority of guns headed into Mexico and being used by drug cartels were coming from the United States. But that is simply not true. Well, today, TheBlaze.com began reporting excerpts from a soon-to-be-released book titled The Weed That Just Won't Die by Reed Williams. Williams looks into federal documents surrounding the case of Jesus Vicente Zambada Nebla, known as the Sinaloa Cartel's logistics coordinator. Now, this guy was extradited to Chicago last year to face federal drug charges. Now, before we get into all that, we should explain how the drug trade in Mexico worked prior to the start of this drug war. For decades, Mexican drug cartels existed independently of each other. They didn't work together, but they did stay out of each other's regions. So to understand, take a look at this map. These are the major cartels in Mexico. We'll start over here in this top corner. This is the Arellano Felix organization up here in orange. It has trade routes into Southern California through Tijuana, and it's a very profitable group. The Beltran Leyva organization is a less large cartel, but still pretty powerful. There's Los Zetas. That's this whole pink area right here. They are actually a paramilitary group created by our government. They were actually trained to take out cartel leaders, but went into Mexico and became a cartel of their own. Then you have the Gulf Cartel, who has been heavily at war with Los Zetas. Down here in the dark green, you have La Familia Michoacana. You have the Creo Fuentes organization. That's up here in this little purple one. They actually look like they would be the smallest territory, and land-wise they are. But they're actually one of the most powerful drug cartels in many ways because their routes go up through West Texas, through El Paso, and Ciudad Juarez. And finally, and this is very important to the story, is this light green right here. That is the territory of the Sinaloa cartel. Look, if you want to understand Mexico's drug war, then you have to understand how the Sinaloa cartel works. A man by the name of Joaquin Guzman, also known as Chapo Guzman, is the head of this cartel. In 2001, Guzman was being held in a Mexican prison. He actually escaped from that prison in a laundry truck. He went back and took control of the Sinaloa cartel. And when Guzman did, he began a war with all these other cartels across Mexico. The goal here, the attempt, was to create one super cartel by wiping out all of the competition. It has been long believed in Mexico that Joaquin Chapo Guzman got a lot of help. And that is the war that has been fought in Mexico heavily since 2006. So back to the Fast and Furious allegations here. The man making those claims, again, Zambata Nebla, is a close associate of Chapo Guzman and the Sinaloa cartel's logistics coordinator. Zambata Nebla claims that under a divide-and-conquer strategy, the U.S. helped finance and arm the Sinaloa cartel through Operation Fast and Furious in exchange for information that allowed the DEA, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and other federal agencies to take down rival drug cartels. The Sinaloa cartel was allegedly permitted to traffic massive amounts of drugs across the U.S. from 2004 to 2009, during both Fast and Furious and the Bush-era gun-running operations, as long as the intel kept coming. And there is more. Based on the alleged agreement, the Sinaloa cartel, under the leadership of the defendant's father, Ismael Zambata Nebla, and Chapo Guzman, were given carte blanche to continue smuggling tons of illicit drugs into Chicago and the rest of the United States. They were also protected by the United States government from arrest and prosecution in return for providing information against rival cartels, which helped Mexican and United States authorities capture or kill thousands of rival cartel members. States in Motion filed for discovery in United States District Court by Zambata Nebla's attorney in July of 2011. So what you need to know is that members of Congress from both parties should now say, look, let's demand to see everything, every single file connected to Fast and Furious and Operation Gunrunner. That means Republicans should not be focused only on the years when the Obama administration had control. Rather, go back to the beginning during the Bush administration. And Democrats, they should be demanding to see exactly what the ATF has been doing. Not just for the nearly 50,000 Mexican citizens who have died during this drug war, but for the thousands who are yet to die. And that is Reality Check.
Oh. Well, I didn't hear Dear Leader mention that. Strange. One would think that with that much evidence out there, I mean, in the court system, you know, the death of a Border Patrol agent, Brian Terry, his family running around saying the government is wrong, that they do not take the government's side in this. Of course, they're just a grieving family. I'm sure the government blows them off that way. Oh, they're grieving. They're over-emotional. The parents need to move on. Right. Right. Because their son was murdered with a weapon that you provided to the drug dealers, and then you won't even own up to it. Their son, who was a Border Patrol agent working for you. Border Patrol, DHS, Coast Guard. Go look up Brian Terry if you don't know who he is. Look how the government treated him and his family. Do you still want to work for said agency? Do you still want to be part of the Department of Homeland Security? The Gestapo? Because they certainly don't care about you. In fact, they give the drug runners in other countries guns. And then when you get shot and killed with them, they deny it and screw over your family. Maybe you should think twice about joining the military, Border Patrol, government agencies, DEA, any of that garbage. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. I have a bunch of things I want to get into. I have a bunch of little audio clips I want to play for you and things I want to comment on for you tonight because the news of the week, although I've gone over a bunch of different things, I have gotten focused on certain subjects here and there. And tonight I'm trying to pack in the rest of the news of this week because it is the final show of the week, the Friday edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. And next week I got a bunch of interviews going on and everything else. So you know how it is. Time keeps rolling on forward. I don't want all this stuff getting pushed by the wayside. Now, the other day I had spoken about a young lady who was defending a mentally challenged girl on her bus that was being picked on after nobody had done anything about it. And she was a high school student riding the bus. and the rest of them were middle schoolers, and she took on all the middle schoolers to defend the one mentally challenged girl, and she got in trouble for it. Not the kids that were picking on the mentally challenged kid for how many months? A while. Okay, so anyway, I had spoken about it briefly, but moved on to other things, and I had forgotten to play the audio clip for it, which is what I had intended to do. So I have that for you now. I want to play it really quick. And of course, this is down here in the crazy state of Florida. But this girl was stopped from riding the bus and reprimanded because she stood up for somebody else. And they said she was the one being the bully. Welcome to Bizarre World. Here we go.
A story you are going to see only here on Fox. A high schooler says she tried to do the right thing and then actually got punished for it. Joining us in the studio right now, Fox 35's Jennifer Bizram with the rest of the story. Jen?
Hi, Tracy. The high school senior says she followed the school's zero tolerance for bullying by complaining to school officials. And after weeks of nothing being done, she took matters into her own hands and stood up for a student who she believes couldn't stand up for herself.
Which, by the way, is the right thing to do. Regardless if the school tells you it's the wrong thing, or our policy doesn't allow for that. Well, guess what? Take your policy and jam it. The kid did the right thing. Are you going to be there in 20 years to tell this kid to do the right thing? Is your policy, your zero tolerance policy, going to be around to protect her throughout her life? No, get over it. Stupid zero tolerance policies. That's why that crap doesn't work. Again, setting the kids up for failure. This kid, her parents are doing it right. Good for you.
It's just really sad.
18-year-old Stormy Rich in tears tonight.
Just because she doesn't understand it doesn't mean that should be happening to her.
She says she's been witnessing a Umatilla middle school mentally challenged girl get bullied on the bus every morning for the past few months.
They would just be mean to her, tell her she couldn't sit in certain spots on the bus. They were giving her food that they had put in their mouth. I had to tell her to actually spit it out because she didn't understand.
She says she complained to the bus driver and school officials for weeks, and both her and her mother wrote formal complaints.
When the school didn't do anything about it, I told the girls that if the school didn't do anything, I was going to do something, which I can't. I'm 18. I'll get in trouble. And I have scholarships under my belt. I'll lose them.
That's when she says Lake County Public Schools told her she could no longer ride that bus because she was displaying bullying behavior.
It was just more of a, threat, like, just stop.
We talked with the school district. A spokesperson told us 2 wrongs don't make a right.
Shut up! 2 wrongs don't make a right. It's like what they used to tell my mother. We don't condone bullying here. My mother used to tell them, and I don't condone my son being used as a human punching bag.
Issued us this statement about Stormy, who because of an out-of-the-ordinary class schedule was allowed the convenience of riding on the middle school bus. Quote, it was a courtesy extended to high school students to ride a middle school bus. Due to circumstances on the bus, the privilege was revoked. End quote. He also tells us the teenage girl never complained about being picked on and is, quote, verbally capable of doing so.
What kid that's bullied goes and tells somebody? What kid? They want to have friends.
Stormy says she believes she did the right thing.
I was sticking up for somebody. Why would you get in trouble for doing that?
And should not be reprimanded for it, as stated in the school bullying and harassment policy.
Oh, I never want this to happen to anybody else. I mean, I know we can't save the whole world, but at least we could try to help the people that go to Umatilla.
Now, Stormy graduates next week and will be going to Daytona State College on a full scholarship, according to the family. Lake County Public Schools says since she was removed from the bus about 2 weeks ago, there hasn't been any incidents. Live in the studio.
What about, the kid didn't complain. What about the formal letters written by this girl, her mother, and the numerous complaints that they put into the school? Pay that no mind. You stood up for the other girl, you're being a bully. Off the bus with you. Well done, school district. Well done. Fail. Idiots. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Do not teach your kids to be punching bags. I said this the other night. Set them up for success. They are the future of this planet, and if you don't set the future of this planet up for success, what's going to be around to take care of us when we're all like 80 years old and decrepit and run the country? Who do you think is going to be in charge? That's what I mean by taking care of us. Who do you think is going to run the country? Not a bunch of 70 and 80-year-olds, but these generations and their kids. So maybe it's time to, pay attention to what we're doing. Don't let the TV raise your child. I know that's hard, ladies and gentlemen. I know. It's set up that way on purpose. The system is rigged so that you go to their little safety net. Don't you understand that? Well, what do I do, Popeye, if the system is rigged against me? Well, first step is to understand how the system works. If you think it operates one way, and it really operates a different way, you're not going to understand the game. Once you understand the game, you at least stand a better chance of surviving, even if you have to play by their rules. Sometimes there are loopholes that they end up screwing up. Remember, a lot of times in these systems, whether it's school, family court, CPS, any of these systems, right, government, they get so arrogant with the way they do things that they start to speed up and they start to make mistakes. Hubris is a bitch. So is complacency. And they get just as complacent as they'd like to pretend that we are. See, we're not complacent anymore. We were, but people are waking up, and that's why they're freaking out. That's why, I've said this 100 times, that's why they're running around with this huge police state. They're running around putting on their riot gear, freaking out. They have to do that. They have no choice, because they're afraid of you. Remember that. Always remember that. No matter how dark it gets, how rough it gets, remember that. They fear you. You have the true power. No matter what. If I'm getting hit in the back of the head with a billy club, I understand. That's a reaction out of fear of you. Understand that, is what I'm trying to tell you. If you realize what is going on, or not understand that, but learn that, because if you know what the term understand means, it's another one I got to get out of my lexicon. Know why you're getting hit with the billy club. It's fear. Fear, 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 fear. And that fear is being pushed now. Oh my God, anybody that's got any type of mental disorder, oh, they're going to get a gun and kill people. Oh my God, take their guns away. Look at California. Look at New York. And what do they rely on, by the way? They rely on the DSM. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. One of the articles I want to read you tonight touches on the DSM. The DSM-5 is coming out, the newest version of it. And they've got everything under the sun listed as mental disorders in there, including chronic pain. Do you suffer from chronic pain because you have nerve damage? I do. I have nerve damage in my right arm. I suffer from pain every day. People know that. The regular listeners know. I've talked about it before. Under the DSM-5, nerve damage, or chronic pain, because I have nerve damage, so chronic pain, anybody that has been blown up or shot has chronic pain. Anybody who was in an accident, a lot of us have chronic pain. How about the pain you suffer from all the garbage that's in the food and, the electromagnetic radiation around you, the regular radiation, all that stuff. But regardless, even regular human pains. Now, if you have pain on a regular basis, and I've said this before, if you have pain on a regular basis, they consider you mentally handicapped. There's something wrong with you mentally. It's got to be a mental disease. I've said this before, how if veterans, when they complain of back pain, and there's cases now where there's other people being interviewed where they've gotten harassed, but veterans, if they complain of back pain, the first thing the doctors will do is say, oh, well, you need a psychiatric evaluation. For what? And the vet goes, well, why do I need a psychiatric evaluation? I'm in pain. Yeah, but, because you're in pain, some of it could be in your mind. Because doctors are taught that the pain, a lot of the symptoms that patients feel are in their mind, and they're just doing it to get drugs. And that's why pain patients, when they go in and they want to get medication, they're treated like drug addicts. Ask any pain patient that's out there. Anybody that deals with chronic pain. persistent pain. Anyone. And by the way, that's a lot of the people that use medical cannabis all throughout the country in different states. Yeah, according to the new DSM, you have a mental problem. So, because of things like that, right, the mental health Bible, as they call it, right? In case you people don't know, this is like this thing is used by psychiatrists and therapists and anybody in the quote-unquote mental health community to diagnose people, okay? And part of the problem is they're over-diagnosing people, way over-diagnosing people. I know somebody here who, by one doctor, was diagnosed to be bipolar. First-time visit, their regular doctor, and they couldn't see their regular doctor, and they had to get a prescription. So the doctor, they were referred to this other physician, we'll say, or doctor, whatever, shrink. I shouldn't say physician, it was a shrink. Referred to this other shrink. And when this person went over there, it was a complete different experience than what they were used to. And what they just wanted to get their regular prescription, and they were given the what for, and then a new diagnosis was pumped out. Now, obviously, they didn't accept it, and this young lady's doctor refuted it and everything else, but they diagnosed her with bipolar disorder, and she didn't have it. She's got an anxiety problem, which actually isn't in your head. Anxiety doesn't come from inside your brain. I mean, the things that you think about can amp it up, but anxiety is actually a physical reaction of your nervous system. Now, it has mental roots, but when people are anxious, they're fidgety, they get physical reactions in their body. An anxiety attack mimics a heart attack. Under some of these states now, though, if you have anxiety disorders, if you have anxiety attacks, you're not allowed to have a gun now because of their panic legislation, because it's a mental disorder. But it's really not a mental disorder. It's just been labeled a mental disorder because they don't know what else to label it. It's like PTSD. They don't know how to deal with that. So they just label it something. Look, Feinstein thinks PTSD comes from the Iraq War and that there's never been anything like that beforehand. Really, Diane? Time to punch out and leave. You're fired. For numerous other reasons, too, but that ought to show you. So anyway, the world's biggest mental health research institute is abandoning the new version of psychiatry's quote-unquote Bible, the DSM. And it's questioning its validity, stating that, quote, patients with mental disorders deserve better, end quote. And this comes just weeks before the publication of the 5th revision of the manual, called DSM-5. The article's up on federaljack.com. It's right underneath the featured storied section, right up on the top there. It's titled Psychiatry Divided as Mental Health Bible Denounced. On April 29th, Thomas Insel, director of the U.S. National Institute of Mental Health, advocated a major shift away from categorizing diseases such as bipolar and schizophrenia according to a person's symptoms. Instead, he wants mental disorders to be diagnosed more objectively using genetics, brain scans that show abnormal patterns of activity, and cognitive testing, which that is, at least in my mind, that's more going to the problem. Yes, it's true that people that have mental disorders like heavy schizophrenia, things like that, in their family, it can be a genetic thing. So, if they can figure out a way to actually test for that, like genetic markers like you would test for certain diseases, well, that maybe is a step in the right direction if you could figure out the hardcore ones. But he also realizes that a lot of the problems are people being diagnosed that don't have mental disorders. Right from the article, there have also been complaints that widen definitions of several disorders that have led to overdiagnosis of conditions such as bipolar and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So if your kid thinks outside the box, if your kid thinks for himself and is a free, open, individual human being, like I was when I was a child, they call them problem children now. The ones that have an issue, the ones that don't recite the garbage that is fed to them very well. The daydreamer, because he's using his imagination. His brain's actually functioning, doing something else because it was bored with your garbage. They're hyperactive. They have a problem. Well, my problem when I was a kid, they wanted to put me on Ritalin. They wanted to put my mother let them try that stuff for a brief period of time, and she asked me how I felt about it, and I said I don't like it. She took me off of it. Doctor kept prescribing it for years. She wouldn't fill the prescriptions. She had to wait till I was a certain age. Otherwise, I remember her telling me this. If I don't wait till after a certain age, they could tell her, she could say that I no longer wanted it, and I could make my own mind up. But until I was a certain age, she had to pretend that I was taking it, and she told me to concentrate and pretend, just don't let on that I don't take it ever. Literally, she had to do this. I could say this now because I'm out of school. My dear mother is passed on into wherever we go from here. So, what are they going to do? Like, please. But, yeah. When I was a kid, she made me pretend that I took the medication for a while because she told me that if I didn't and she didn't, at least get the prescriptions from the doctor. Because back then, they couldn't tell if prescriptions were filled or not. She just said, unless it was questioned, by the pharmacist or whatever, but there was no active database of whether or not the prescription the doctor wrote for you was filled by the pharmacy or not. So she just wouldn't take it to the pharmacy. And she did that for years. And she was told, because that was around the time they were ramping up the CPS taking away of kids, and my mother said, I'm not going to react well if they try to take you. She said, it'll be a very big mess and somebody will lose a limb, just like I've said on air before. So she taught me to be smart. So I had to do that. I had to pretend that I, took this medication, even though I didn't. And then I still got in trouble because I thought outside the box, and that's when I said before they wanted to test me because they thought I was special and everything else, and they put me in. I told the story to Charlotte Iserby, and they put me in the guidance office because they thought I had all sorts of mental disorders and everything else. And after 2 weeks of testing, they realized I was playing them, and they got really pissed off at me. And my mother laughed at them and told them that they shouldn't have done it anyway without her permission, blah, 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 blah. But that was the start of this. And now we're where we are now. This is 20 years later. Look where we are now. But that psychiatric manual, not the same version, but the same psychiatric manual, that Bible that they use, right, is now being denounced by the very people that used it to push things like Ritalin on kids like me who thought outside the box. Now, when I was a kid, it was like 1 or 2 people in the class that were on Ritalin, right? Or were prescribed Ritalin, I should say. Now, it's every kid is prescribed Ritalin, almost. I'm willing to bet the percentage is probably somewhere around like 65 or 70% of those kids are on some sort of Ritalin or other drug. Keep them mindless little zombies. That stuff was horrible. Horrific. Don't put your kids on it. Let them think freely. Don't cut their wings. We'll be right back. So they want to look into a more scientific approach, biological approach to quote-unquote mental health or these disorders, whatever you want to call it, instead of treating the symptoms. And part of that is because things are being overdiagnosed. People are being diagnosed based on symptoms. Now, if you've ever gone to WebMD or looked up anything health-related in any way, shape, or form at all, you'll notice that many of the symptoms are the same. You'll notice that if you Google or Start Page or whatever your search engine of choice is, if you go on and you look up, let's say, nausea and lightheadedness, Go look it up. Look up nausea and lightheadedness on a search engine. And then after that, put symptoms. And look at all the different links that come up. And then when you click on the different links, you'll see that 100 different things could be wrong with you, linked to nausea. Right? So, is it really intelligent for you to base your diagnosis of yourself, or for a doctor to base their diagnosis of you, off of a symptom like nausea? It helps them maybe narrow it down to a certain area, but there's a bazillion things that could cause that, right? Or pain or other type of symptoms. So it's the same thing with mental health. You know, people have diabetes, and if they go into diabetic shock, or they start to their blood sugar starts to go crazy, right? What happens to them? Sometimes they become real pricks. Sometimes they start to babble incoherently and stuff, right? Well, you've seen it time and time again. Somebody will be going into diabetic shock. They'll be, in one of these episodes, whatever you want to call it. And as they're having this episode, the cops are beating the crap out of them and tasing them because they think that the guy is on drugs. Well, he must have been high on drugs. Well, even if he was high on drugs, it is the appropriate response to cave his skull in and tase the crap out of him. Well, he was being uncooperative because if someone's high and all jammed up, how about de-escalating the situation instead of just running up and instantly escalating the situation? All these younger cops now, the older ones still have some sensibility. Some of them still, the older ones, partake in it, but the newer ones just want to run up and beat the crap out of people. Overly aggressive, right off the bat. And, he must be a mental crazy person. We know he is. Because Doc told us, and Doc read that big fat book. Well, the big fat book is now being disputed by other psychiatric doctors and professionals, and saying it's the wrong way to look at things. Now, it doesn't mean that it can't be twisted, because, you heard a couple months back, is there an evil gene? Can we do genetic testing to find out if you're predispositioned to do evil things? I mean, that it could go down that route. You need to keep an eye on it. Can't let it get out of control. But if there's a way that you could figure out, hey, maybe this person just is deficient in a certain mineral or a vitamin, maybe that'll help them a little bit. There are certain cases where people really do have a problem. And a lot of times it's caused by something, maybe a lesion in the brain or some physiological or biological problem. A lot of times it causes the issue, and it leads to things being, you're crazy. And then how many people were lobotomized, hundreds of, in the past, maybe 100 years ago and beyond, when they first started the practice? How many people were lobotomized and didn't need to be? Maybe there was just something physically wrong with them. Today they just chemically lobotomize you. They don't stick the thing into your face anymore. They don't ice pick your forehead. No. They don't do that anymore. They do it with chemicals. So it's not as scary. I mean, I'm sure they still do it, physically in places, but instead of running around ice picking everybody's face, right? That's kind of frightening to people. And they still need you to be able to somewhat function. They don't want to have to wipe your rear end for you, right? So they've perfected it, and they chemically do it. Based on things like this crappy manual, which now you have a rift in the psychiatric community itself. So that's a positive thing. Stop symptom-based diagnosis for mental disorders. I mean, again, it hasn't gotten us anywhere. Maybe if you use that, the symptoms combined with testing and brain scans, who knows? Technology is interesting, to say the least. But this is at least a positive step. Let's see where it goes. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Hour 1 up. Hour 2 coming up. Do not go anywhere. We will be right back. More insanity on the way, I promise. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. It is May 3rd, 2013. Did you guys hear about the new law that'll ban protesters from riding mass transit in California? Yep. Because, doing something about what the protesters are pissed off about would probably, that would, I guess, take too much thought. And maybe, paying attention to what they're saying. And I guess that would validate their concerns and their gripes, right? So rather than, I guess, legitimize their valid concerns, like at the BART station where the cop shot that kid, Oscar Grant, I think was his name, if I remember correctly. He was laying face down on the concrete. Cop pulls his gun out, shoots him, right in the back, kills him. Because the bullet, of course, went through him, hit the concrete, and came back up. Tore them all up. People got pissed. They protested. What about going to other protests, though? No. Can't do that either. It's going to make it harder for people to move around the system or the city if you're protesting the system. And the system is the one making it harder for you to do so. If you live in California, you should pack your crap and leave. Gun confiscations, this crap, and they can't get their finances in order. They stand idly by and let the feds come in and raid medical cannabis dispensaries, stand around like a bunch of Sallys with their hands on their hips. We can't do anything. It's the feds. We're scared of the feds. We can't do anything. If you live in California, I know it's a beautiful state. I'm sorry that your state is run by a bunch of morons. You have two options. Either revolt and throw everybody in your state house out and put good people in, or move. Because your state sucks. The state's great, but the legislators in your state suck. Kind of like Florida. Florida itself's not really a bad place. The legislators here are morons. There's a lot of good states. Look at Colorado. Colorado's another beautiful state. Legislators, idiots. All of them. Well, except, the ones that use their common sense and are about freedom. Okay, you're cool. The rest of you that are all about tyranny, morons. They are. There's no other word for it. Now there's people that are whining about a billboard that was put up defending the Second Amendment, showing the natives, and it's like they ask a native or something like that to that effect about gun control or whatever, and there's it's mixed. There are a lot of natives that are in the area that don't care because they understand, and then there are some that oh, I'm all offended. Really? You should go look up your history. Google, because it's on YouTube. It'll be the easiest way to find it. I hate giving them the NSA any exposure, but or go on Start Page and look up Innocents Betrayed. Or just go on YouTube. Innocents Betrayed. Right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and I am pleased to announce that we are going to have a mini episode, a half episode, of Cutting Through the BS with my good friend, Johnny English, who's here to join me for hour number 2 to pick apart the insanity that I've been going over tonight. So first, let me welcome Johnny to the broadcast. Johnny, welcome back, brother.
Hey, thanks, buddy. I'm all filthy. I've got my filthy work clothes on. I didn't even get a chance to wash my hands. So that's how excited and that's how much I rushed to get back here so I could at least do 3 segments with you.
Actually, I have to give him a big thank you, ladies and gentlemen, because seriously, Johnny was literally just at work like 20 minutes ago, and he just walked in the door from working probably like 12 hours, and he's still going to pull another hour with me online. So thanks, brother. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I wonder how many traffic cameras have my blazing blue Saturn flying by at a blur like a Saturn 2-stage rocket booster. Yeah, it was, and it's raining on top of that. Something odd around here. It's raining. Last year, by the way, don't think for a second that the same people that made all that money last year on the drought, they're going to make a ton of money on the floods this year. Just so you know.
Of course they are. Dirtbags. Would their last name be Soros?
Oh, I'm sure there's a long list of names.
Buying up land and the such.
Sir, yeah. I'm sure there's plenty of names that are, bet on, because who would bet on it? Who would bet on a flood a year after a drought? You would have to be a maniac. Speaking of insanity, you would have to be a complete tool to throw your money. Oh, well, we had a drought last year. We're going to have a flood this year. Somebody knew. I promise you somebody knew.
Geoengineering.
What? Hold on. I didn't have time to put my tinfoil hat on. Let me get that on real quick.
Just remember, they do trade weather on the stock exchange. So
that's right.
Chicago Mercantile Exchange, they exchange weather commodities. What?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things people don't know about the stock exchange. There's a lot of things traded. You have no idea. People losing their lives, people losing everything they own. People are betting on you. They're betting on all this and making money on it.
Yeah, epic scumbaggery, dude. And of course, then they get bailouts, and then anybody that screws over the general public and steals money and bonuses and this and that. Well, they're too big to prosecute. We can't go after them, right? Because they pay you. That's why they're too big to prosecute. Scumbags.
Exactly. I'm not even. I have to stop talking about it because I could go on and on and on about that. Because it's just ridiculous that these scumbags make money off of people losing things. You know what I'm saying? So onward to what you were talking about. I caught a little bit of the insanity stuff. I don't know if I care for the way you said stay tuned for more insanity.
Oh, I got one. This one's kind of humorous and it feeds the fear. You'll see what I mean. This is a completely needless piece. It's a minute. Listen to me. It's a minute and 27 seconds long from ABC. Okay, and I don't even know if I'll be able to get through the whole thing without stopping and ripping it apart. Okay, it's about ground turkey and how it has bacteria in it. Well, because it's raw meat that's ground up, and yeah, there's usually bacteria in it. Again. Do we even need to have this newscast? But I digress. Hold on.
New scientific tests done on many brands of ground turkey reveal almost all of it was tainted. Consumer Reports tested 250 samples of ground turkey. 90% of it contained E. coli, staph, salmonella, or other forms of infection-causing germs. Some bacteria strains were resistant to antibiotics. Scientists now strongly urge thoroughly cooking ground turkey until it's no longer pink to avoid getting sick.
Paid for by the beef industry.
Okay, can I ask you something? I gotta ask you this, and I was saving this until you came on because I knew you were gonna lose it. But correct me if I'm wrong, but man's been using fire to cook for like 10,000 years. So,
yeah, a few years, yeah,
something like that. Yeah, couple years under the belt with cooking.
Yeah, couple
with heat and flame and things.
Right.
I recall that a long time ago they realized that if you didn't cook chicken or turkey thoroughly and make sure it wasn't pink, that you could get sick from salmonella. I mean, my mother taught me how to cook by the time I was like 6 years old, 30 some odd years ago, and she told me back then that, hey, if you don't cook chicken thoroughly and it's pink, it's no good. You can get sick from it.
Here's a shocker. I'm about to level some people. Any meat, anything like any meaty subject or substance. I should not subject substance. If you don't cook it properly, this goes for ground beef. It goes for any kind of meat. I mean, people eat raw steaks. It's not all that great for you. But when you're getting into ground meat, any kind of ground meat like that, if you don't cook it properly, it's going to make you sick.
Really?
You know, I hate to bust your bubble, and I know this is a shocker. You know, you need to put this up on federaljack.com.
I know, breaking news.
Exclusive. Johnny English just came on and just leveled the playing field here. Whatever, man.
Dude, wait, no, it gets better. Wait, it gets better.
This makes me sick because I am among the, I think, millions of Americans who decide to use turkey instead of ground beef because we think it's better for you.
Turkey sausage, for instance. The other day, it was in the supermarket, and turkey bacon as well. Same kind of thing. I love the real stuff, but I said, I'll save a few calories.
Why not? And that's the best way to do it. And now we're hearing that it can make you sick in other ways and more dangerous ways, which is not good. The other side of this, though, the turkey industry calling it misleading. They haven't explained why, though.
Well, I guess if you cook it thoroughly, just like the report just said, if you cook it so it's not pink, I would imagine everything's killed then.
Okay. There is a recommendation, though, to use all-natural, antibiotic-free, and organic brands if you really want to be safe. Or
But I thought that Dr. Oz said organic brands were for snooty people. I mean, it's just, hold on, there's 20 seconds left.
Oh, my God.
I know, it's hurting you.
Can't take it. Go on.
I know it. Trust me, my head hurts, too.
just cook it all the way through.
There you go. But now we have that doubt in our minds, don't we?
I know. I don't think I'm getting turkey anytime soon.
I bet you chicken sausage and chicken bacon. Do they make such a thing?
Maybe they do.
Must.
It's going to go through the roof at the supermarket.
Soy.
Idiots. I bet you chicken sausage and chicken bacon. Hey, morons. I'd hate to break the news to you, but that's poultry as well. And they're going to have the same bacteria on them. Duh. So you're going to go eat raw chicken now? Stupid. I mean, this was the most useless minute and 27 seconds ever on ABC.
I saw this story. It's ironic that you brought that up because that was playing in the morning before I went to work. And my wife and I just looked at each other and just sighed because I just couldn't believe they wasted that kind of time on something so ridiculous. I mean, really, come on.
I saw the clip on YouTube channel Pigmine4. Rob, the guy who runs the channel, is a friend of the broadcast, and he's been on a couple times. And I saw the video in my feed, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, of course, it contains it. And yes, when they say antibiotic free, blah 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 blah, the stuff that's heavily laden with antibiotics has been known to cause a higher rate of bacteria on that meat, and if you eat it, then that's why one of the reasons, besides the stuff being in overprescribed and in the drinking water and everything else, but it's also in the meats and the food you eat. So that's another reason why these super bugs are all over the place. And suddenly now we recommend you eat organic, but I thought organic was for snooty people, and that you didn't have to eat organic. So I mean, don't eat organic, but eat organic, but don't eat organic. Really?
It brings me back. What was that movie on? What's the movie I'm thinking of that was on Netflix for so long? About the food. They were
Food Inc. or whatever.
Food Inc. Yeah, Food Inc. And they had the cow. They cut open the cow, and they're showing you the stomach of a cow, one of the many stomachs of a cow, and they're showing this and the stuff that they're feeding them. They couldn't even digest grass. I mean, the whatever it was in the feed that was so awful. They couldn't even digest regular grass, which is, if I remember correctly, Popeye, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure cows live off that grass. That's why they call it grazing, and in the old days, believe it or not, these cows could eat grass and survive, and everything was just fine. And then all of a sudden, GMO type things, corn, all these little things, they start, hey, my cow really likes this stuff. Well, yeah, but it's killing the cows.
Don't worry about that stuff.
Why slaughter them in a slaughterhouse when you could just kill them with GMO feed slowly and
But
slowly.
don't worry about it. Look, there's 90. Look, didn't you hear the breaking news? Okay, 90% of turkey has bacteria on it. 100% of ground turkey has bacteria on it, you morons. 100% raw anything has bacteria on it. Stupid.
Yeah,
Why do you think you cook the food? Because man realized long ago, well, shit, if I eat raw stuff, I get sick and die.
Oh, maybe we need to make a way to, refrigerate it. Keep it at. That's why there's certain temperatures that you have to keep a refrigerator at and keep your meat frozen or, at a certain temperature, or bacteria happens to grow. Really?
I know, we're blowing everyone's mind that's listening right now.
Oh, absolutely. They're flipping out. They're probably just throwing stuff out of the refrigerator.
They're throwing everything out. Everything. Even though there's probably bacteria all over the inside of your refrigerator, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, there's bacteria all over you. Okay? Oh my God, germs? What? Yes.
Don't lick your fingers, folks. Don't lick your fingers.
The reason why you see so much of these superbugs and stuff coming out is because everybody wipes their hands down with antibacterial stuff. Now, if someone sneezes and coughs up like a chunk of lung into their hand, right, and then they touch something, yeah, wipe it down. I get it, okay? I'm all for that. But, I know guys that they walk around with a bottle of that clear crap, whatever it is, but it's pretty much, they call it hand sanitizer, but it's like alcohol in gel. You know what I mean? It's pretty much what it is. And every little thing, they touch a doorknob, they're like, oh my God. And I have to disinfect it. I'm like, dude, you realize you're overdoing it. And you're just going to weaken your immune system by doing that crap. You can't do that, dude.
Yeah, there's a reason why. Believe it or not, folks, but our bodies have a natural immune system. I know it's shocking. Don't pass out.
Hey, you know what boosts that immune system naturally? Cannabis. I know. Sounds crazy. Go look up cannabinoid receptor. Go look up the endocannabinoid system in your body. The endocannabinoid system is like steroids for your immune system. But you're not supposed to know that. But hey, take these pills.
But that's illegal, Popeye. It's illegal. You can't have marijuana?
No, but you know what? Marijuana, look, according to the government, the marijuana has no health benefits. But I guess they didn't tell that to the people that are trying to, they give out Marinol, and that they actually do give out medicinal marijuana to some people, like rolled joints. They get a can of them every month from the government, still to this day. Government grows cannabis to this day, but then tells you it's got no medicinal value whatsoever.
Not to even mention hemp and, what it would do to the cotton industry and the wood industry, all these different industries that are actually the ones that are lobbying against marijuana and trying to keep it illegal. That's why. It's all about the money, folks.
Money and control. Where have I seen this before? Oh, everywhere. With everything. We're going to break. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back hanging out tonight with my good friend Johnny English for the second hour, doing a mini version of Cutting Through the BS. Make sure you cook your chicken and your turkey, Johnny, before you come on next time.
I will. I will definitely check into that and make sure that's done.
Wouldn't want you to get sick.
I'm waiting for the big expose on don't stick your fork in a light socket, because I hope they dedicate at least 3 minutes to that.
Chris in the chat wrote earlier, next week they're going to do 2 broadcasts on how to balance your checkbook and not to eat yellow snow.
Yes, don't eat the yellow snow. Very good, very good. Yeah, you don't want to eat that stuff. Oof.
It's just so stupid, dude. Why not report on big health problems like, the Fukushima radiation or the San Onofre plant leaking and they're using
GMOs. Come on.
Well, that too. Did you see what they're doing with the San Onofre plant?
No.
The thing's leaking and they're putting it together with duct tape and broomsticks. Literally. But no, don't worry about that.
Hey, maybe they could shrink wrap it like we do at work.
Hey, let's build another one because they work so well. Idiots.
It's amazing. It really is amazing that we've made it as far as we have without, having some just a crazy, even because Chernobyl was big, and that was really bad. Obviously the Japanese situation, when the tsunami and that thing was just awful. It made its way onto the West Coast, and you didn't really hear that much about it. I can't believe we haven't had bigger problems. I really can't believe it.
Well, you should, because there's a thing called weather modification.
What?
Yes.
I've never heard of such a thing.
I know. Geoengineering doesn't exist. It's all in my head. Even though there's guys that go to geoengineering conferences and stuff, and they talk about the fact that they manipulate the weather, but it's fake.
That's impossible.
I should be worried about the 90% of ground turkey that has bacteria in it.
Sir, I'm sure there is no way geoengineering is responsible for the several inches of snow in northwest Iowa a day ago after 80-degree weather about 2 days ago. I am sure that has nothing to do with it.
In May. Sir.
It's ridiculous.
I saw pictures, dude, and I was just face palming it. Somebody put a meme up the other day. They already beat us to it. They were like, geoengineering? What geoengineering? And there's going to be 6 to 8 inches of snow on the ground. Really? Oh, well, it's one of those late April, early May snow showers.
Is it a nor'easter? Well, what are all the names for these things? A nor'easter, and then there's
Superstorm Sandy.
Yeah, a superstorm, a Category 1. Not even really, probably just barely a Category 1, but it's a superstorm. Shut up.
New terminology. And, I pointed this out at the time when they started doing that. The first time you really heard, that terminology used to describe a nor'easter, with snow and, a hurricane with snow, oh my God. One of the first times I heard that term used in pop culture and being put out into people's heads was that movie, The Day After Tomorrow. It's going to create a superstorm and take out the Northeast. And it became so cold, the helicopters were falling out of the sky, remember?
Oh, yeah. If the eye passed over, everything instantly froze.
As
long as you stayed out of the eye of the storm, you were okay. But as soon as the eye passed over, literally, you could be walking and just freeze solid.
And it was a superstorm. And now they went from calling it Hurricane Sandy to Superstorm Sandy. That's its new little name now, because it was a modified storm that was morphed from a bunch of storms. It transformed like never before. Well, that wouldn't maybe have anything to do with those morons flying around in the planes, spraying things, and doing all sorts of cloud seeding and weather modification. No. Stop it.
No, that's the atmospheric conditions that shut up. It is not.
I love contrails. You know anything, dude. Those are ice crystals, and ice crystals can stay up there for hours and hours and hours. Really? In direct sunlight? Really? After a while, they'd melt. No. Okay. That's why pilots even refute that. If you look at a real contrail, they dissipate real fast. But it's normal that stuff stays up there for 3-4 hours. Yeah, it's normal. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen. If you have young children still up, you might want to remove them from the room for a few seconds. They're going to hear you and them, if they're around, are going to hear the F word muffled, so it's not going to be super clear, but it's not my fault. It's just a piece that's in the audio. You hear it in the background from the one police officer, but I want to get Johnny's take on this. This is just a quick piece of audio of my friend Alex, one of the men behind FederalJack.com, the founder of Federal Jack, and he's one of the founding members, and he's a reporter, a hacker. He's been on multiple times, and this was 5 years ago on Memorial Day. I played the full audio last night where he was interviewed by Luke Gradowski, but I want to get Johnny's take on this really quick. It's about 20 seconds. You're going to hear some profanity, ladies and gentlemen. And again, if you get offended by it, it's not meant to offend you, but it's not me, it's the police. And this is raw reporting, so this is a little different than if I was playing something for shock value or something like that. But it is what it is, and you're going to hear the police officers. You're going to hear them say, use the term internet lawyer, and you're going to hear them say federaljack.com twice. So they knew who we were already before we went out there in the street. Here, check it out.
I'm being illegally searched. Shut the fuck up. You're under fucking arrest. If you want the law, fucking understand. What is that, dude? Is that federaljack.com? Internet fucking law is up to family. If you want the law, federaljack.com.
Did you hear it? Is that federaljack.com? And then he's looking through Alex's stuff, and he goes, yeah, federaljack.com. And the other cops are in the background harassing him. Internet effing lawyer. What they didn't realize is he had the reason why you don't see the video was because it was recording while it was closed. The cops thought it was off. When they tackled him, he left it recording, but the way that camera works is I have it. When the thing closes, if it's recording, it'll still stay recording. It doesn't turn off. It's an older camera. Newer ones, when the thing, the little viewfinder, little door, whatever, closes, it turns off, goes into like power saving mode. That one didn't. And it recorded the audio and kept going. So they didn't know that the thing was recording while they were beating the crap out of him, and you heard them, internet effing lawyer. Best part? All charges were dropped the next day. When he got out, he went home, put in, the information and stuff into, I forget what the website is, but you can look up, court cases and arrests and everything like that online. He looks it up. Nothing. No charges. No nothing. And then when he looked into it further, all charges were dropped against him. In fact, it's like the charges, the way he described it when he first looked into it, and I remember this, it was like when he started looking into it further, all of a sudden it was like the charges, like almost like he was never arrested. He's like, well, I know I was arrested because I spent the time in the friggin' cell for like 12 hours. And they tackled him. He was walking away, and as he was walking away, the cop came up and tackled him. And I think if I remember correctly, Alex heard him coming up and hit record, and that's when they took him down. That was like his reaction, that they at least hit the record button. I don't remember if he either hit record or if he still had it recording or whatever. He was able to catch that little exchange with the police. And then, of course, if you heard the full story, that one of the cops that you heard in the background saying internet effing lawyer, he was one of the ones beating the crap out of him. He ended up getting arrested a year later for kidnapping somebody, and ironically he was arrested a block away from where he arrested Alex. So, karma's a real bitch. Johnny, what do you think about that? I mean, beside the fact that they gave us a great shout out and a great piece of audio. You know what I'm saying? Thanks for the plug.
Well, I honestly think it just goes to show you that they are paying attention. They know about the people that are actually grabbing people's attention. So in a way, that's a good thing. However, beating the crap out of someone because they might find something on there, the federaljack.com or anyone else, it doesn't even matter. Obviously is wrong, but it is kind of nice knowing. And what'd you say, that was 5 years ago?
Yep, 5 years ago this Memorial Day.
Now, how many people actually know who you are or know about the site? It's kind of cool, but
yeah, they didn't like us back in the day either.
No, I don't think they like you at all. And the funny thing about it is you're only pointing out what's going on. It's not like you're going around making up stuff. Because most of the time, as long as I've known you, any kind of story you posted that you did yourself or whatever, or videos that you played or put on your site, are obviously they're not edited, and it's just telling the truth, and that's one thing that they hate. They hate the truth, and there are some good, and you've even said it, there are some good cops out there. There's good in everything. Okay, there's good in all different aspects of law enforcement. However, if you look at the broad spectrum, there's a lot of bad.
Oh, well, it used to be the good outweighed the bad, and now it's the opposite way.
Yeah, it's the other way around.
But there are still good ones. In fact, there's a bunch. I actually have a rather large contingent of police officers and sheriffs that listen to the broadcast. I was quite surprised to find this out over the period of time, but I have a lot of members of Oath Keepers that tune in. I have sheriffs, officers, and deputies. and police officers that do actually tune in to the broadcast, and they agree. I've anybody that if you're a police officer and they're a sheriff and they're actually listening to the whole broadcast, then unless they're being paid to spy, which they don't have to, the FBI awarded that contract to a private company. Was it like a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now? So they don't have to do that. If they're listening, they're doing it because they genuinely care. And I get emails from them, and they say, "Hey, dude, I'm really concerned about what's going on, and I appreciate you, outing the bad cops." And they say themselves, it's hard now because they're not. It used to be the good outweighed the bad, but now it's the other way around. And a lot of them, if they speak up, it's their job. I have friends that have left because they couldn't stand being in the police department anymore. They were just over it. They were like, "Screw this, I'm out."
Well, and I grew up, with a cop that was, was kind of questionable. Had mix a little Jack and Coke and go out patrolling in your car. There's a little problem there. There's a little bit of an issue. I witnessed a lot of Southern justice in my day growing up in Alabama, and my dad being chief of police and, all these different things. So it really is sad to see, that there's so much bad out there. Now, it's just getting worse because they're slowly trying to replace the good guys and run them out to replace them with the people that are going to do their bidding. And they're going. What I mean by they, obviously, you know who they are. They're trying to replace those people with, with people that are going to do whatever they say and not help you and actually, maybe they need the ones to come and get your guns, maybe, or whatever the case may be. So look at all the sheriffs that got slammed by the government and, that were standing up for the Second Amendment. So
a couple of them died in mysterious
ways.
It
was shocking.
Oh, I know. Ooh, conspiracy. The government would never do that. Okay. Right.
Some SEAL Team 6 that, suicide.
That's why when these morons, the only way to describe them is jerk-offs. Okay, I'm from Jersey. Okay, that's the way we would describe these morons in the mainstream media. They come across when these crazy conspiracy theorists think the government would attack its own people, as if they've ever done it before. If you guys have ever looked through a history book that wasn't written by your bosses, the Rockefellers, but maybe you should thumb through that thing once or twice, huh? Check out history, and you tell me if the government's ever killed its own people.
It's amazing how much stuff that I was taught that's been completely BS. I did a report, my main report in my English class, my last senior year English class was the big report I did was on the Vietnam War. And I got everything I, talked about in the Vietnam War from books that were written, obviously the Gulf of Tonkin wasn't in those books. It was, but it was the way it had been explained back then, and it just makes me sick to my stomach that so much has changed, and I found out so much about that now. It's ridiculous. You people out there that's not doing your research, you really are doing a disservice to yourself. You're hurting yourself. You're hurting your family by not doing the research. Take your head out of the TV and these stupid reality shows and whatever else is on that's caught your attention. The pretty shiny coins on the floor, and start doing your research, please. Don't believe what we say. Do the research yourself. Plain and simple.
Did I hear right that Mark Dice got arrested today?
I don't know exactly. I haven't got a chance to look into the whole story. Our friend Chris reposted a picture or something, and it shows Mark Dice sitting on a sidewalk while a police officer is handcuffing him, and he makes some kind of smart aleck comment. Judging from the last video that I saw him post, that also was retweeted, or not retweeted, but shared on Facebook, he probably deserved it, to be quite honest. From the video, I mean, he's really all over the road. And I'm sorry if anybody out there is a Mark Dice fan, but I'm telling you right now, you really need to look into this guy. Because I think he's lost his marbles, to be quite honest.
Well, I don't know what he was doing, but yeah, there's a picture of him being detained by 2 cops. So I guess they take his information or whatever, and it says it's on his. This is right from his Facebook page. These things happen sometimes. Ha ha. I'm fine, and there were no charges, and I can't really blame the police for detaining me and trying to figure out what was going on, considering what I was doing. Although he doesn't say what he's doing. I'll post the video next week. So I guess it's hang on, wait until next week. Mark, do me a favor, release it a little earlier, kill the tension. Best part is one of the cops recognized me from my YouTube videos, so that made explaining things a lot easier. So they probably said, oh, you're the guy that makes people look stupid because they're so dumb and they don't pay attention to anything, and you ask them questions. I mean, look, I'm sure there's editing, but to his credit, he does blatantly, right to these people's faces, say like the most outlandish stuff, like we're gonna bring a Nazi regime in and like kick doors in and take guns, and people are like, yeah, that's cool. We want to abolish the First Amendment for people that don't like Obama. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, and people signed it, dude. So it is what it is. But I wonder what what he was doing that the cops thought he needed to be detained.
I don't know, but I also kind of gave a little chuckle to the Christmas time video, the Black Friday video that he did. And that was funny, and it did. I sit there and was watching it and was thinking to myself the exact same thing. You people are idiots for standing outside of a store for hours and hours so that you can get a stupid TV, a 70-inch TV for $200. I mean, come on, man. Just
don't forget step over dying people so they could get that.
Oh yeah,
TV.
Oh yeah.
Because God forbid they don't get that last Xbox game. Screw you, dying person. CPR? Pff, what's CPR? Probably even know how to do CPR. I went off on that.
I'll be back right after I get my Sony PlayStation 3 for.
Now, hey, listen, you, sir, hang on for 30 seconds, okay? I just got to vault over the old lady in the wheelchair to get that last PS3, and I'll be back to help you out. Can you hang on a second, sir? What do you mean you're dying, sir? This isn't all about you, You're rather selfish, sir. I mean, that's the kind of... Seriously. People get... The one guy, was it 2 years ago, one of the Walmart employees got crushed to death? Yeah. Because they rushed the doors, and the sliding doors came off and crushed the guy. And rather than, oh my God, there's somebody underneath the door, the guy was trying to get up, and they just kept trampling him, and he was literally crushed to death. That's nice. You killed a man so you crushed a man to death so you could get better deals on your PlayStation 3, your Xbox, movies, or whatever other garbage that you really don't need and just enslaves you. Well done.
A guy making minimum wage.
Yeah, well done. Well done. Well done. Ugh, we'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Final segment of tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. That means it's actually the final edition of the week. It is Friday. 2 days off. Much needed rest. Although I'm not going to be resting. I have a bazillion other things to do. But, week flew by. Been a very, very busy, heavy week. So, a little punchy today. But I'm glad Johnny was able to join me for hour 2. I mean, Johnny, I think it's awesome that you're here on the network doing your own gig. Right now it's what, Saturdays and Sundays? It's 2 nights, right?
Yeah, right now, Saturday and Sunday nights, 8 to 9 p.m. East, right here on unboundradio.com.
And it might be changing to 2 hours on Saturday.
We're 1 hour goes really fast. You don't realize how fast that hour goes until you look at the clock. And it's like, quarter till or something. And you're like, wow, that went by fast. So
yeah, it does go by quite quick. I'm telling you, when you start getting into information, dude, people think, oh, I love when like new hosts or guests. I don't know if I'll be able to fill 2 hours. Okay, trust me, you will. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, you will. And at the end of the show, they're like, wow, that went by fast. I still have more to say. And I'm like, I know.
Yeah,
it does.
Unless you do it, unless you actually break down and do it, you have no idea how fast it flies.
Yeah, dude, it goes by like Flash Gordon. You blink and poof, it's over. So that's awesome that you're changing things up a little bit. But we'll let the listeners know. For right now, It's Saturdays and Sundays, 8 to 9, Broken Man Radio. And Johnny and I, once he gets the schedule with the show down pat, for whether or not he's going to go to 2 hours or not, and some other things, because he's got, he does, work for a living. We'll get the Cutting Through the BS broadcasts back on like some sort of, official schedule eventually. But, they'll be sporadic for right now. Johnny will come on for like the second hour like we did tonight. And, Fridays, sometimes it's nice to come on. I like having you on at any time of the week, but I like having you on Fridays because it's like blowing off steam. You know what I mean? And we can just, we can talk about anything. Fridays I can get into educational stuff. I can just go off the wall stuff. There's so much of it out there now, dude. You put a blindfold on, spin in any direction, chuck a rock, you're going to hit something interesting.
Well, yeah, you can't turn around anymore without something going on. And I notice so much of it now. Those of you that are awake know this, that you look at everything a whole lot differently. Everything has a total different complexion to it now. And whatever news story you see, whatever happens, around us, you just can't. You just look at everything in a whole new light, and it's amazing. What you can actually see if you really look. If you look closer, quit looking on the surface like an idiot, and actually look a little bit closer. You're going to see all these things. So.
I agree. It's like putting on the sunglasses. The first time Roddy Piper puts them on and they live, and he's like, what's going on? And he starts looking around, and, whoa, and then he slowly realizes what's going on.
Yeah.
You have to, once you see it, you can't unsee it. So when I say willfully ignorant, people are like, what do you mean? I mean the people that know what's up, and they'd rather be like, what's his name in The Matrix? And eat the steak. I know that the steak's not real. I can't remember his name right now. I remembered it the other day when I brought this up.
Cypher?
That's what it is, Cypher. He's sitting there and he's like, I know the steak's not real, but the Matrix is telling my brain it is, and it's so juicy. I just want to be somebody important, blah, 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 blah.
And I'll be honest with you, dude. There's times I want to go back. I know I really deep down don't want to, but I think all of us at some point in time, it drives you so crazy that you almost actually long to be a complete moron and be completely oblivious. And, you go through those times. So, don't think that you're crazy or anything. It's going to happen. You just have to figure out a way to deal with it.
Yeah, and if you feel sick when you first find out what's going on and you feel nauseous and it literally takes you a couple weeks to get through that feeling and you're depressed and anxious and scared, that's actually quite normal. It's about what all of us go through when it first happens. And then comes the anger and the resolve. And that's when you choose to do something. And you know what? If everybody steps up to the plate, then it would be over tomorrow. And I know that's some sort of fantasy in some people's minds, but really, it's happening, and that's why they're scared. And that's why you see this epic, growing police state. And I say this all the time. It's a physical manifestation of their fear of all of you. It really is. They're afraid. Because humanity's true potential is coming out of Pandora's box, as it were. And they can't put the lid back on it anymore, ladies and gentlemen. And with that, we're out of time. Johnny, thank you so much for joining me for Hour 2, brother.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Anytime, dude. Ladies and gentlemen, check out Johnny's broadcast Saturdays and Sundays, 8 to 9 p.m. right now, Eastern Standard Time, Broken Man Radio. Hell of a broadcast, hell of a broadcaster, and a hell of a friend. And with that, I'm out of time, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you all again Monday night. Feel free to check out my archives over on unboundradio.com or my full 2 years' worth of broadcasts before I came to Unbound over on federaljack.com. Educate yourself. Be an autodidact. I love you all. I'll see you on Monday. We're out of here.